And then I will not keep you any longer. Mr. Kurt, time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the very kind. Thank you very much, and thank you for the very kind introduction. Honorable Mayors, distinguished guests, welcome. SCAP is pleased to join the ASEAN Mayors Forum and UCLG ASPAC in this special event. We were especially privileged to host the ASEAN Mayors Forum in Bangkok in 2019, and we look forward to seeing all of you face-to-face again in the near future. You heard from our Executive Secretary yesterday that SCAP is committed to working with local and national authorities to ensure that policy pathways to urban resilience can be adopted across Asia and the Pacific. Following on the very robust discussion from yesterday that Dr. Bernardi had just summarized, in this session, we look forward to showcasing local innovations on sustainable and climate-sensitive urban development. Many of the policies and practices that you as mayors are adopting and implementing in cities and communities across Southeast Asia will contribute to meeting the aspirations of the Paris Climate Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Especially important are these actions that you're taking because much of the projected growth in energy demand and therefore potential emissions are expected to come from urban areas in Southeast Asia, which are still seeing rapid urbanization, population growth, and associated rise in consumption levels. We know that as countries update their nationally determined contributions, ambitions can only be raised and realized if the actions of cities and urban areas are integrated in those nationally determined contributions. So this morning we'll hear from honorable mayors in our panel on how they're working to enhance climate resilience in their communities and working with national governments and other stakeholders to contribute to a whole of government and whole of society address mandates to these challenges. Allow me to introduce our esteemed panel of mayors. Each mayor will share their experience and efforts, and we will then have an open discussion and invite some discussants as well to participate in that open discussion. Our speakers are from the city of Makati in the Philippines, Honorable Mayor Marlene Abigail Binay. From the city of Nakhon Si Thammarat in Thailand, the Honorable Mayor Dr. Kanop Ketchart. From Pangkal Pinang City in Indonesia, Honorable Mayor Molan Aklilo. And from Vigan City in the Philippines, the Honorable Mayor Juan Carlo Medina. Let me first invite Mayor Binay from Makati City to open with her presentation. Mayor, the floor is yours and you have about 8 minutes.
Pleasant morning to all of you. I'm happy to be part of the ASEAN Climate Week. Climate change is an issue that has been front and center of our initiatives even before the pandemic and will continue to be a major concern for all of us as we move towards rebuilding our cities and communities in a post-pandemic era. For the past decades, we have been taking concerted action to mitigate the effects of climate change on our cities and in our region. These actions are being undertaken consistent with the international frameworks and covenants that underscore our shared concern over climate change and emphasize the need for sustained action. Makati's Disaster Risk Reduction Management Plan for 2019 to 2030 is aligned with the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Paris Agreement or COP21, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the New Urban Agenda, and the 5 ICLEI pathways. Our Climate Change Action Plan, on the other hand, integrates DRRM principles in our city development plan across all sectors, including social development, infrastructure, protective services, and environmental management. Climate plans and strategies at the local level offer the most immediate and direct response to climate change. Our policies and actions at the local level directly impact on the people and communities. In many cases, the results of our actions are immediately immediately felt by the stakeholders. In our city of Makati, we have formulated an action plan that values the inputs and participation of communities, institutions, and the private sector. As the country's financial capital, we are host to major corporations and financial institutions, as well as thousands of business and commercial establishments. Over 5 million people work or conduct business in the city, while the city continues to develop strategies to boost economic growth despite or because of the pandemic. We also need to be mindful of the impact of unmanaged mobility as well as business and commercial operations on our environment. But first, we need to be good examples. We cannot tell our stakeholders to be mindful of their energy consumption when they see us being wasteful. At City Hall, we have replaced our old lighting fixtures and air conditioning systems with ones that are more energy efficient. Not only is this good for the environment, it has also reduced substantially the city's power bills. We use it as an example on how we can take small steps that have a big impact on our environment. Our shift to digital transactions with the city has also made a considerable impact. Tax payments are now done online without the need to go to City Hall, thus reducing carbon footprint and greenhouse gas emissions. Several initiatives and programs require the support and participation of the local business community. The city's solid waste management code, the ban on the use of plastic as packaging material, the ban on cigarette smoking, and strict measures to control air pollution are being undertaken with the support and cooperation of the business sector, as these cover activities mostly within the central business district. Additionally, we require business and commercial establishments to submit their annual GHG inventories to the city as a condition for obtaining business permits. The aim is to collect data on fuel and electricity consumption and to use them to monitor greenhouse gas levels at the community level and implement strategic interventions. Despite the pandemic, we're pushing forward with our legacy project, the construction of the Makati Subway. Aside from providing jobs to thousands of residents and other economic benefits, the subway is expected to make a substantial impact on the air quality of our city. The subway is seen as reducing 2.3 million tons of carbon dioxide in annual greenhouse gas emissions by 2048. My friends, today we are waging a battle on two fronts, the pandemic and climate change. In cities and countries already suffering economically from the pandemic, natural hazards such as typhoons will not only add to the suffering of the population, but will impose greater burdens on governments whose resources have already been stretched to the limit by the pandemic. I hope that this forum will allow us to share our experiences and learn from each other and will help all of us navigate the uncertain times ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Benet, for your intervention. We'll come back in the discussion section, and maybe there'll be some questions for you at that point. Let me introduce Mayor of Nakhon Si Thammarat, Dr. Kanop Ketchart, for his presentation. Dr. Ketchart, the floor is yours. Well, this
organization and have our city climate action plan. Climate change seems to be a far-fetched topic for our people. However, we have found that success or failure of the city climate action plan will very much depend on community participation. For low-income community, the plan will promote how much money they will earn by joining the plan. For middle and high-income communities, the plan will target at the city schools with around 10,000 students in the school system. We promote in the school that climate change and saving the world is a cool and trendy thing for next generation. The City Climate Action Plan includes, for example, first, zero waste in school. Students earn points from doing good deeds in keeping zero waste in school, especially plastic bags. We are promoting that we have zero plastic bags in school. Second, walking city program for tourists. This will eliminate the need for tourists to use the transportation when enjoying our city. The city provides a guide map for tourists to enjoy our beautiful and historic city by walking or by riding a tricycle with driver. Along the walking path, they can check in attraction points with their smartphones and earn prizes from the city. By promoting walking city program, we reduce the need for transportation for the tourist, which is the second largest income or the revenue for the city. The third is we have a smart city application for smartphone with free internet access points for every people in our city. People can communicate with the city without having to commute to the city hall to do business. This will greatly reduce unnecessary transportation to the city hall. And the fourth action, we have a hospital, a city hospital with 20,000 beds. That you hear it right. We have the largest city, we have the largest hospital in the world. How we come out with these 20,000 beds? We have a meeting, several meetings with people in hospital and all the people in the city. And then we come to a conclusion that people can use their home as a hospital when they get sick. We have around 20,000 houses in the city. When they get sick, they call the city, and the city will send a doctor to their home to treat them. This will greatly reduce unnecessary trip to hospital. And we have found that the best hospital for our people is their home. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully after COVID era, we will have a chance to welcome you all to our beautiful and historic city of Nakhon Si Thammarat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor. When I mentioned whole of society, you certainly have addressed some of the whole of society issues as it relates to resilience, including engaging with school children, as well as non-residents in terms of tourists. Again, we'll also come back in the open discussion and further have an opportunity to engage with you on some of your solutions. Let me now turn to the Honorable Mayor Marlon Aquino from Pangkal Pinang City in Indonesia. Mayor Aquino.
Is Mayor Akil here? Hello. I think he is not here yet, Kurt. We can move to another mayor. I saw his seat is still empty there.
Okay, so why don't we move then to the mayor of Vigan City in the Philippines, the Honorable Mayor Juan Carlo San Medina. Mayor Medina, please, you may proceed with your presentation.
So, Mayor Vigan is here. I have not seen him with the camera on. We also have several other mayors who join us. Maybe we can, while waiting for the other two speakers, we can ask other mayors who are present here to maybe make comments or intervention. Thanks.
Very well. I know we have with us, obviously, many mayors with us. We do have two discussants that we've invited from India, the mayor of Patiala, Mr. Sanjeev Sharma, and the mayor of Varanasi, Mayor Mridula Jaiswal. Mayor Sharma, are you available to provide some comments? So just unmute and turn your camera on.
I think it's not ready. The one I can see here is from Indonesia.
Mayor Ganda?
Yeah,
Mayor June Ganda, who's the mayor of the government regency of North Minahasa. Mayor Ganda, would you like to offer some comments?
Selamat pagi Pak Bupati dari Minahasa. Ini ada interpretation juga bahasa English. Silahkan kalau ingin berbicara bahasa Indonesia juga, silahkan. Atau bahasa Inggris. Bapak Ganda? Pak Bupati Ganda?
Ya. Halo,
ya.
Hai Om.
Ya,
Dengarkan?
hear you, yes.
Suaranya jelas?
Sangat jelas, silahkan.
Oke, makasih. Jadi saya adalah salah satu kepala daerah yang ada di Provinsi Sulawesi Utara, Indonesia, di mana kita ini adalah bagian dari satu destinasi super prioritas yang ditetapkan oleh pemerintah Indonesia. Daerah kita yang menjadi Likupang. Dan kami berharap bahwa perkembangan yang ada di kami bisa menjadi informasi juga bagi teman-teman kepala daerah yang ada di negara-negara tetangga. Kami juga berusaha untuk terus menjaga kelestarian alam. Kami juga terus menjaga apa yang kita miliki untuk bisa menjadi aset bagi bumi. Kita terus menjaga komunitas kita untuk tetap menggunakan atau tidak menggunakan plastik di dalam kehidupan kita sehari-hari, tetapi memang ini merupakan suatu langkah yang butuh waktu, dan kami berharap juga bisa mendapatkan dukungan dari pemerintah untuk bisa membantu kami. Karena menjaga lingkungan ini kita harus bekerja bersama-sama, baik dari pemerintah maupun dengan masyarakat. Masukan kami bagi teman-teman kepala daerah di negara lain bahwa memang yang menjadi kendala kita dari pengalaman beberapa kali kami menerima kunjungan wisatawan asing yang datang ke daerah kita adalah kebiasaan-kebiasaan juga yang dibawa oleh mereka, terutama dari negara-negara yang mungkin hanya baru sekali datang, dan mereka banyak yang kurang peduli terhadap lingkungan yang ada di kita. dan bahkan cenderung ada beberapa kali sedikit merusak alam yang ada di kita. Nah, mungkin ini juga menjadi suatu isu agar kita juga menyampaikan kepada masyarakat dunia bahwa apabila kita pergi ke suatu negara, ke suatu tempat, maka kita juga punya kewajiban untuk ikut menjaga kelestariannya. Saya rasa mungkin itu yang boleh saya sampaikan. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much. It's interesting, Mayor Ganda, that you also mentioned the impact potentially of tourists, and the mayor of Makati Subway also mentioned tourists. Let me come back while we wait for some of the others to Mayor Binay in Makati. Have you had any success, or are you trying to reach out to what I would call maybe some of these non-traditional stakeholders, tourists, school children? How do you see engaging with all stakeholders to again create this whole of society approach that can be implemented at the local level? Mayor Binay?
Well, we have introduced climate change awareness in the level of our schools. We've even conducted urban gardenings in our school premises, and we do plan for this year to be able to provide a kit to our school children to maybe start their own urban gardens in their residences to make them self-reliant and self-sustainable as well. In the next coming weeks, the City Hall will set us an example we are currently doing a feasibility study to install solar panels in City Hall as well as our hospital. So this will hopefully encourage the private sector to also take the initiative in establishing renewable energy sources even in their households.
Thank you. What barriers are you facing as you're trying to adopt and implement these practices?
Well, of course, the biggest barrier is finance. The focus of most households now is how to get a job if they lost their job, how to put food in their plates. The focus is not really climate change, because the focus is how not to get sick of COVID, how to recover from COVID. So I think we will have to integrate the focus between the pandemic as well as climate change, because we can't sacrifice climate change because we're prioritizing the recovery from this pandemic.
It's an interesting challenge for mayors, especially given their relatively short periods of time in office, with the kind of the long-term horizons of climate change that unfortunately are often delaying the urgency and the actions that are needed. How do you ensure that the policies and the practices that you're developing will have those longer term impacts and not simply be something that is limited to your term in office?
Well, that's the reason why you have a long-term action plan. It will not be dependent on who the sitting mayor will be after my term, but most importantly is continuity and commitment. That's the purpose of why a local climate action plan, as well as your disaster reduction plan, is beyond your term of office. So it is based on science, it is based on study, so it should not be based on politics. So hopefully, whoever will be the next mayor of the city will respect or update or make it better the action plans that we plan to implement in the coming years.
Great, thank you very much. I see that we're joined by the mayor of Vigan City, the Honorable Juan Carlos. So, Mayor Medina, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Hello to Ma'am Bernadia. First off, I would like to thank the organizers for allowing Vigan to present our projects and programs regarding the environment. Let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen? No?
Not yet. Now we see your screen. Please proceed. If you would like it, if you could make it full screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Screen natin.
Okay, it's not full screen, but you can proceed, please.
Sige. Okay. So, the COVID-19 pandemic has rendered nations immobilized for a year now. As we evaluate our various efforts and the continuing spread of the virus, more and more countries came to realize the need to prioritize environmental measures. As cities increase due to the use of imposed various measures to stop the spread of the virus, waste generation has also increased due to the use of disposable protective gears. Similarly, restaurants wanting to keep their business adrift have shifted to takeouts and deliveries, resulting to an increase in household waste. The city of Vigan has been advocating for environmental protection. Even before the pandemic, the city has been working to reduce waste through the implementation of its solid waste management policies. First, it created the Solid Waste Management Board that is responsible in developing the Solid Waste Management Plan. As a result of the plan, the city was able to create the Barangay Solid Waste Management Teams, whose functions include the management of the materials recovery facilities, ensure the cleanliness of the barangays, and the promotion of the 3 R's of segregation. Through this measure, the city hopes to progressively phase out organic disposals to landfills, implement a more effective garbage collection, and reduce the health risk that comes from being exposed to contaminated garbage. As part of our waste disposal management, the city also procured alternative technologies that can turn waste disposals into reusable materials such as used paper into briquettes, glass bottles into hollow blocks, organic waste into fertilizers, styrofoams into tables and chairs, and others. To date, the city has been able to provide all the tables and chairs of our early child care and development centers and kindergarten classrooms using those produced at our materials recovery facility. The city also has an environmental code that specified measures in preventing and reducing various environmental pollutions. It includes policies on the cutting of trees, the issuance of an environment compliance certificate, fisheries and aquatic resource management, the prohibition of black sand mining, preservation and protection of turtles, coastal management, and air monitoring, amongst others. In our efforts to contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gases in the city, we have encouraged non-government organizations to join the city in all of its tree planting activities. The city also conducts a quarterly ambient air quality monitoring, wherein the city are able to maintain a good to fair air quality index as reported by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Likewise, the city also imposes the no open burning policy, no smoking public places policy, and the pedestrianization of our heritage district during the weekend. Soon enough, we hope to be able to identify a track for the safe use of cyclists in order to reduce carbon emissions from vehicles in the city. In 2020, the city started its community survey through the Vegan City DevLive Plus program. The program, which has partnered with UNDP, included the survey of several factors affecting our environment. It gathered data on livestock, local structures and its composition, local industries and its location, and fish cage ownership. From this data, the city can identify targeted programs that do not only help the citizenry, but also protect the environment. The identification of livestock ownership will help the city calculate the amount of methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide released by this industry. Likewise, irrigation projects may be improved to reduce methane gas emissions brought about by fertilizers and crop residue. The gathering of data has always been taken for granted, but I believe that cities should prioritize this measure in order to accurately respond to the need of the community. In response to the pandemic, the city of Vigan also strengthened its programs of vegetable and urban gardening. Due to lockdown protocols, people lost their jobs and their income. Most relied on the support provided by the government. Thus, the city promoted household and community vegetable gardening. This program will hopefully provide supplemental supply of vegetables in the community to augment their food supply. To date, the city has been able to train residents from various barangays on vegetable and urban gardening. The biggest project by the city government that is currently at work is the closure of our open dam site to make way for the construction of our engineered sanitary landfill. As we all know, engineered sanitary landfills will greatly benefit the community, as this will prevent leachate from reaching and potentially contaminating our water resources. It may still produce a great amount of gases that are harmful to the environment, but with the right management and with the help of other programs to reduce waste, gas emission will significantly be lower than that of an open dam site. Also, due to the considerable increase in hazardous waste, the city government also constructed hazardous waste storage areas to keep people from being exposed to the various or other illnesses that these kinds of waste creates. Finally, as we move towards the new normal, the city commits to initiating more programs that will protect the environment. For one, we hope to shift our school feeding programs to consider a more plant-based meals. We hope to be able to reduce the use of paper in the city government by at least 25%, reduce the use of single-use plastics in the city, conduct an energy use survey of households, advocate household composting, and to construct greener open spaces in the city. These measures may seem small, but these targets, if strictly implemented, will definitely have a big impact in slowing down climate change. While the pandemic has altered global priorities, we cannot defer our efforts in addressing climate crisis. Instead, it is in these times that we are called with unprecedented opportunity to hit the reset button and make that better and more resilient change to the environment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor Medina. There were some very innovative and creative solutions that you presented. I was very much pleased to hear you emphasize the gathering of data and the focus on technology and technology solutions. Can you just address what would you see as some of the gaps or challenges related to the collection, interpretation, and effective use of data and technologies?
The problem with us right now, sir, is still there are certain sectors of the community that are not truthful in providing data that would be used for the city. While at the same time, it's about training the offices on how to properly interpret this data. So we are working closely with our agriculture and our planning offices so that we can address certain gaps in the data on how we can encourage our farmers to provide proper data so that we can interpret this properly, and for them to be able to access certain programs and projects that would basically help them in their activities.
Good, very well, thank you. So the validation of data is important, and the training to build the capacity of officials to utilize the data. So thank you very much. I understand that Mayor Aquil is ready for his presentation. Maybe we should move to the mayor so that we can have time for an open discussion. Mayor Aquil, the floor is yours.
Ya, siap. Siap, terima kasih Pak. Halo.
Bisa mendengar Pak, kami bisa.
Yes, please.
Baik. Apakah saya sudah bisa mulai? Ibu Bernadia?
Ya, boleh Pak, silakan.
Yes, please.
Baik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Yang kami hormati moderator kita Ibu Dr. Bernadia Irawati Chandra Dewi, dan panelis-panelis yang lain, Wali Kota Makati City Filipina, Wali Kota Subang Jaya Malaysia, Bapak Ibu Nuraini binti Roslan, Bapak Samuel Somnuek Kechat, Wali Kota Nakhon Si Tamat City Thailand, Wali Kota Xiamen Tiongkok Juang Jiahan, Wali Kota Vigan City dari Filipina Juan Carlo, juga Wali Kota Gangtok dari India Bapak Nel Bahadur. Izinkan saya dari Pangkal Pinang menyampaikan terkait kota kami dalam strategi dan inisiasi pemerintah dalam mengaktifkan kembali lingkungan untuk ketahanan iklim, komitmen pemerintah daerah kami. Baik Bapak Ibu semua, saya perkenalkan kota kami. Kota kami bernama Kota Pangkal Pinang, City of Thousand Smile sebagai ikonnya. Jadi di sini kota beribu senyuman, wajib senyum di kami. Kami berasal dari Provinsi Kepulauan Bangka Belitung, bagian dari negara Indonesia. Kota Pangkal Pinang merupakan ibu kota Provinsi Bangka Belitung dengan luas wilayahnya 114 km persegi, ditambah dengan masyarakatnya berjumlah 217.000 orang. Saya menjadi wali kota 2,5 tahun menjabat menjadi wali kota Pangkal Pinang. Dalam pembangunan ini tentunya sewaktu saya menjabat saya punya visi misi tersendiri. Sebelum saya menjadi wali kota Pangkal Pinang ini masih banyak perubahan-perubahan yang harus saya lakukan. Oleh sebab itu mengacu kepada visi misi kami. Visi misi kami tersendiri adalah pertama mewujudkan Kota Pangkal Pinang sebagai kota senyum. Smile tadi, senyum merupakan singkatan dari sejahtera, nyaman, unggul, dan makmur. Adapun misinya adalah kami berupaya meningkatkan pemanfaatan potensi ekonomi, penanggulangan kemiskinan, meningkatkan kualitas keamanan, ketertiban, pelindungan masyarakat, meningkatkan tata kelola pemerintahan yang baik, good governance, meningkatkan kualitas pembangunan sumber daya manusia yang berkeadilan, dan meningkatkan kualitas infrastruktur dan pengelolaan lingkungan hidup. Sebagai ibu kota provinsi, sesuai dengan arahan kegiatan hari ini, kita mencoba untuk penanggulangan iklim ini, tahanan iklim kita. Pertama kita melakukan penataan kampung-kampung kita yang sebelumnya kumuh menjadi kampung senyum sebagai pusat kegiatan ekonomi baru bagi masyarakat kita di sini. Dalam rangka juga mengatasi bagaimana mendukung ketahanan iklim itu, menanam pohon, taman edukasi, sehingga masyarakat kita merasa memiliki lokasi tersebut. Selanjutnya, dalam kondisi sekarang ini, COVID-19 ini sudah kami rasakan juga bagaimana imbasnya di kota kami. Investasi yang masuk, pekerjaan yang susah dicari, perekonomian, pertumbuhan ekonomi yang turun, inflasi yang semakin tinggi, membuat kami harus berpikir bagaimana perekonomian di kota kami tetap berjalan. Oleh sebab itu saya bersama-sama dengan istri saya mencoba untuk menghidupkan UMKM kami, bagaimana bisa hidup di saat seperti sekarang ini. Jadi istri saya punya tugas yang sebetulnya simpel, tetapi bisa dirasakan langsung oleh masyarakat bagaimana mereka bisa bertahan dalam situasi COVID-19 ini. Istri saya melakukan Nata UMKM. Nata UMKM itu semacam program datang ke tempat UMKM mempromosikan, mengendorse jualan mereka, produk mereka agar bisa dikenal dan tetap bisa survive di kondisi COVID-19 ini. Sehingga beliau digelarkan sebagai Mother of UMKM-nya Kota Pangkal Pinang. Sehari itu hampir 10 endorse ya masuk ke rumah kami, dan setiap hari hampir 1 juta kami harus mengeluarkan uang untuk membeli endorse tersebut. Jadi kalau biasanya orang endorse itu kita yang dibayar, kalau kita enggak, kita yang bayar. Demi menghidupkan UMKM kita, membantu UMKM kita di saat sulit seperti ini. Itu terkait bagaimana kami menghidupkan situasi perekonomian di situasi COVID-19 ini. Selanjutnya, kami juga berupaya bagaimana kota kami yang merupakan sebuah kota kepulauan yang terdiri dari sekelilingnya adalah laut. Tentu kami punya sumber daya laut perikanan yang cukup tinggi, yang sebetulnya juga adalah Bangka Belitung ini terkenal dengan penghasil timahnya. Timah di kita udah hampir mencapai 400 tahun dikelola selama zaman kolonial Belanda sampai sekarang. Kota Pangkal Pinang, ibu kota provinsi Bangka Belitung, merupakan daerah penghasil timah yang terbesar. Dan selanjutnya juga kita punya lada putih di provinsi Bangka Belitung ini, dan salah satu juga sektor unggulan kita selain pariwisata adalah perikanan dan kelautan. Namun kondisi yang ada dari perikanan dan kelautan ini, kita mengalami hambatan di transportasi. Bagaimana kita harus berpikir supaya hasil-hasil perikanan dan kelautan kita ini bisa kita ekspor ke luar daerah kita. Oleh sebab itu, salah satu yang kita rencanakan, kita akan membangun pelabuhan yang skalanya skala internasional, yang bisa dimanfaatkan selain untuk nanti sebagai transportasi. Pelabuhan ini bisa juga untuk kedepannya menjadi daya tarik pariwisata di kota Pangkal Pinang. Mudah-mudahan doanya. Selanjutnya juga terkait dengan iklim, ketahanan iklim ini, komitmen kami adalah bagaimana kami menyiapkan support air baku, sumber air bersih, sehingga kami harus berpikir bagaimana ada embung sebagai penampung air bersih dan support air baku tersebut. Insya Allah kita sudah memplot itu dengan mengganti rugi beberapa lahan itu hampir mencapai sekitar 15 hektaran sampai hari ini, dan mudah-mudahan kita mendapat bantuan dari pemerintah Indonesia untuk membangun embung yang kami namakan Embung Eka Guna di Pangkal Pinang. Terkait pengolahan sampah, di Kota Pangkal Pinang kami berupaya bagaimana sampah ini bisa menjadi berguna bagi masyarakat kami. Oleh sebab itu, sampah yang setiap hari 120 ton per hari sampah dari Kota Pangkal Pinang ini, kami bersama-sama dengan PT Kaltimex dari India untuk menjadikan sumber energi listrik di kota kami. Sehingga kita sudah melaksanakan MOU terkait itu, sehingga mudah-mudahan dalam waktu dekat sampah kami untuk sementara 70 ton per hari bisa dirubah, dikelola menjadi energi listrik di kota kami. Sampah itu juga selain kami kelola untuk listrik, pengolahan sampah hampir sama saja seperti dari wali kota Pigan City tadi, hampir sama kita kelola juga melibatkan masyarakat, bagaimana sampah yang tadinya tidak terguna bisa dimanfaatkan sebagai kompos, bisa dimanfaatkan untuk alat-alat bahan baku yang bisa digunakan untuk alat rumah tangga dan bahan bangunan. Selanjutnya kita dalam rangka
Mayor, ask you to wrap up. Please.
Oke, bisa saya lanjutkan. Dalam rangka ketahanan iklim ini, kita juga membangun pembangunan taman publik. Taman publik sebagai pusat interaksi sosial masyarakat dan keindahan kota. Seperti di Taman Sari, Taman Merdeka, Taman Dialopa. Terus kita bikin juga Taman Tugu Ketam Remango yang menjadi ciri khas kita, semacam kepiting besar, dan itu menjadi ciri khas kita. Taman Simpang 5, Taman Krito Surong, dan kita minta bantuan juga dari pihak ketiga CSR, ya bagaimana CSR PT Pelindo 2, CSR Bang Sumsel Bubble, CSR yang lainnya juga yang membantu kita untuk memperindah kota kita dan menambah sarana dan prasarana di kota kami. Kami rasa sekian dari kami. Sebagai pengingat semua bahwa kota kami merupakan kota jasa dan perdagangan dan investasi. Sebagai kota, ibu kota provinsi, ya, dengan luas wilayah yang kecil, kami bagaimana berupaya dengan kota yang kecil ini tetap hijau, tetap ramah lingkungan kami, sampah tepat kelola dengan baik. Terima kasih, saya kira itu saja. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mayor. One quick follow-up question. It was impressive to see that your community is aligning the vision and the mission with the Sustainable Development Goals. Has the SDG framework been useful to guide your policy decisions? And how are you coordinating the alignment with the SDGs with the national government so that your actions and commitments are reflected in reporting against the 2030 agenda, specifically with relation to climate action?
Ya, saya langsung menjawab ya, Pak.
Ya, silakan Pak.
Ya, ya tentu sangat berguna Pak. Jadi visi misi saya, bagaimana kita menanggulangi terkait kemiskinan perekonomian ini, bisa juga terkait dengan iklim yang kita kelola, penanganan ketahanan iklim ini. Gini, keindahan kota, taman kota yang kita bangun yang ada itu sebagai leverage-nya, daya ungkitnya untuk masyarakat beraktivitas secara ekonomi. Jadi kami berupaya ekonomi tetap berjalan, ketahanan iklim kita tetap berjalan, kita upayakan komitmen kita, apalagi di saat COVID-19 ini. Jadi semua lini harus berjalan, kesehatan berjalan, COVID berjalan, komitmen kita terhadap ketahanan iklim juga tetap berjalan. Dalam situasi yang berbeda ini, kami berupaya sepintar mungkin, sebisa mungkin membuat skema yang terbaik bagaimana investasi tetap masuk, perekonomian berjalan, tapi tidak juga mengganggu ketahanan iklim, tidak juga mengganggu budaya dan sosial yang ada di kota kami. Jadi semua itu tetap berjalan dengan baik. Makanya visi dan misi sampai ke 2030 nanti tetap secara berkesinambungan. Itu Pak.
Thank you very much. And perhaps we can come back to it. What I'd like to do now is we have about 15 minutes left and have some open discussion. But before we get to open discussion, we do have two discussants from India, the mayor of Varanasi, Mayor Mridula Jaiswal. Are you with us? And Mayor Sanjeev Sharma. I would like to invite our discussants to comment or reflect on what they have heard in the presentations and see if they have any thoughts to offer on their own experiences.
Good. We don't see them.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe they can come back when they're here.
Okay. Very well. So let me just ask a general question to each of the mayors. And if you could each respond very briefly, and then we'll come back to maybe a couple of other questions. Subnational reporting platforms are important to document and record what local communities are doing, but also are important for national governments to capture and fully report the progress against whether it be nationally determined contributions or the 2030 agenda. In each of your contexts, if you could address what are the subnational or local reporting platforms that are available to you, and are they effective, or are there additional platforms or work that needs to be introduced to make reporting more effective? Mayor Benet, let me start with you.
I would actually have to double check because there is no repertorial requirement even on a national level on climate change initiatives, but I think there should be, considering that it should be a collective effort, not just by one city, but as well as neighboring cities as well. But usually we do work together, the National Capital Region, the cities within Metro Manila do have a coordination meeting, but not specifically to climate change. I will have to say that's rather unfortunate that we don't have those repertorial requirements.
Okay. Let me then stay in the Philippines and ask Mayor Medina if you have any thoughts on subnational or local reporting platforms that could be useful, and what would you envision as an effective platform to support the integration between local and national efforts? Mayor Medina?
Maybe it's not here.
Okay. I understand that the mayor of Makati Subway has had to leave. I think there may be an opportunity within the chat for any questions to be shared. So let me ask the Secretariat if they could forward any questions that might come. But continuing with the mayors, Mayor Akil, what are some of the policy and/or capacity gaps that you have identified in your community for effective policy adoption or implementation?
Maaf Pak, sinyalnya nggak kurang bagus, terganggu di sini Pak. Maaf Pak.
Sure. Let me restate the question. I was asking whether there are any policy and or capacity gaps that need to be filled in your community or that you have identified to make climate action more effective. Okay, you may have some audio.
Ya, terima kasih Pak. Sebetulnya ada 17 yang akan kita tujuan daripada pembangunan berkelanjutan ini. Bagaimana salah satunya adalah dari 17 itu kami menghapus kemiskinan, mengakhiri kelaparan, bagaimana kami menciptakan kesehatan yang baik, terus bagaimana kami menciptakan pendidikan yang bermutu, kesetaraan gender. Terus kami berupaya bagaimana akses air bersih dan sanitasi, menciptakan energi yang terbarukan, terus menciptakan infrastruktur yang mendukung bagaimana pembangunan kami di Kota Pangkal Pinang. Itu salah satu dari 17 pembangunan berkelanjutan di kota kami, Pak. Saya kira begitu, Pak. Terima kasih.
Okay. I understand that the mayor of Vigan is back. Mayor Medina, maybe the same question. Where do you see policy or capacity gaps in your community, and what might be effective means to fill those gaps, especially as it relates to the urgency of identifying local climate actions?
Basically, there are a lot of gaps in regards to environmental awareness, basically. So whatever policy or projects that we are going to do, this would be long-term projects and issues that we have to address. That's why the best thing to do right now is to inculcate in our youth the importance of protecting our environment. We have started incorporating environmental awareness lessons in our daycare students. We have provided lessons to our elementary students and kindergarten students so that they could properly understand waste segregation. We have to start them young. By starting them young, they can better understand the problem, they can better address the problem, they can better grasp the importance of whatever issues we're trying to address, while at the same time helping in the continuity of the project. Because if you involve them at a young age, they would be more receptive to the programs and projects of the CC regarding the environment, while at the same time taking charge in the near future regarding these projects.
Thank you very much. I understand the mayor of Makati Subway is back. Dr. Ketchart, Honorable Mayor Ketchart. If I could ask you, what do you see as some of the opportunities to engage with the national government, especially as it relates to national reporting and developing an integrated approach to climate action? Mayor Ketchart? Is he gone again? Okay. I think we may have some connection problems. Let me see if there are any questions from the participant or from the attendees. I think you can either raise your hand or enter something in the chat. I don't see any. Okay, Mayor Binet, let me come back to you. I think you mentioned in your presentation that one of the challenges was finance. Local authorities have some flexibility in the development of their own local budgets, but many rely on intergovernmental transfers for some of the larger and big ticket items. What actions are you taking in the development of your local budget? And how are you interacting with the national government or other financial institutions to develop access or increase access to finance?
Well, the city and me as personally is a firm believer of PPP. We have entered into several PPP projects wherein, for example, the subway. The subway is actually a joint venture. It's a joint venture between the city and a private proponent. So a lot of our financing comes from the private sector. For example, our internet connectivity. The backbone of our infrastructure when it comes to connectivity is a PPP project. So the limitations in finance, actually the city does not have any issues when it comes to finance because we do have enough money, but we still pursue other sources of financing so that we will be able to still provide services or projects, social services projects without having to use our own funds. So we do not even rely heavily on our internal revenue allotment, which comes from the national government. So we would rather partner with a private institution to come up with a project in the city.
Okay. Thank you very much. Could I ask you to maybe offer some concluding remarks? Is there anything that you've heard today or anything else that you would like to hear from the other participants or over the course of the remaining time in this forum?
So maybe it's just a call for all the ASEAN mayors that let us not lose focus on our commitment to reduce our greenhouse gases and to still pursue our projects against climate change in light of the pandemic. Let's not. We may be segued. It may have to be placed on the back seat, but it's still there. The project should still be there because once things go back to normal, we should refocus and still pursue these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Binet. Mayor Medina, any final remarks from you?
Just that just to reiterate the importance of long-term projects in addressing climate change. I know that it's not a glamorous, it's not glamour projects. It's not what basically wins you votes, especially here in the Philippines. But if we want to protect our children, if we want to protect our loved ones, we have to invest on programs and projects like this that would basically help the environment and to provide them a more habitable living space. So this is just a call to my fellow mayors that we are all in this together, be it small or large. Small actions can still influence climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Aclil, do you have any parting words that you would like to share with your fellow mayors?
Terima kasih. Izin Pak, Bapak Wali Kota sudah meninggalkan tempat, jadi diwakili oleh Kepala Bapeda Pak. Berkaitan dengan akses dan pembiayaan untuk melakukan proyek perubahan iklim, kami di Kota Pangkal Pinang memang selain dari APBD, kami banyak menggunakan sumber-sumber pembiayaan yang lain, termasuk salah satunya adalah CSR yang paling banyak dari badan-badan usaha milik swasta. Kami juga melakukan kolaborasi dengan mereka. Beberapa cesar cukup banyak di pemerintah Kota Pangkal Pinang. Jadi tidak hanya mengandalkan dari sektor pendanaan penganggaran baik dari APBD maupun APBN. Jadi di luar itu juga kita melakukan proyek-proyek perubahan iklim yang lain. Tergantung memang tematik daripada masing-masing program daripada kemitraan swasta yang ada di Kota Pangkal Pinang. Mungkin demikian, Mbak.
Thank you all very much. We've come to the near the end of this session, so let me wrap up first by thanking all of the mayors and participants for sharing their experience and their insights on climate action, but more broadly, how to engage many stakeholders. I think we heard at the end the value of public-private partnerships. And that while some of the actions in communities may seem small, that collectively they contribute to both national and global actions on climate. There are some clear gaps that have been identified, both in terms of capacity, the use of data, but also how to reach out and engage with both traditional and non-traditional stakeholders. There were opportunities identified by Mayor Ligon on engaging with schools and local school children, but also recognizing the impact of tourists and how to reach out and influence their behavior. So again, I think we heard a number of innovative solutions and clear ways to address challenges. But I think that the final call, as expressed by both of the Philippine mayors, is that ASEAN mayors can contribute significantly and need to continue to proceed on identifying climate actions, both in their communities and with other stakeholders. Thank you all very much again for your contributions to this panel. And let me turn the session back over to the Secretariat. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Garrigan. Dear distinguished participants, we just finished our first session. Before we move to next session, we will show you some short videos. Enjoy.
We are unity.
Speak out loud, let the light from the east shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. Let's share
Established in 1967, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, has grown to become a global actor. ASEAN member states are committed to work together towards peace and social and economic development. ASEAN is now the 5th largest economy in the world. This progress has lifted many people out of poverty, but the region is still facing many challenges. With at least 60% of the UN Sustainable Development Goals implemented at the local level, ASEAN's work needs strong involvement of mayors, cities, and local governments. The ASEAN Mayors Forum is an important catalyst for this effort.
The importance of your work cannot be underestimated. Over half of the world's population by now lives in cities. By 2030, the urban population is expected to reach 60%, and much of this growth is expected to take place in Asia.
The ASEAN Mayors Forum is a regional network of local political leaders who strive for local-driven solutions for major challenges like climate change, natural disaster, economic slowdown, and all other issues that concern people's well-being.
Whatever ASEAN do has to complement what we're doing at the global level, and what we're doing at the national level, and for today, what we're doing at the local level.
When we are united, we can have a stronger voice. They have us loud and clear.
Join us at the ASEAN Mayors Forum to create a people-centered and forward-looking ASEAN community.
We are unity. Speak out loud, let the light from the east shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. Let's share our spirit to heal the world. Consonant speak out loud.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the videos about ASEAN. And then this upcoming session is session 2, our final session. And for them who joined today as their first day, please be advised that throughout our sessions today, we provide interpretation services, both in English and Bahasa Indonesia. Should you need it, please click the interpreter button below and click the language of your choice. The following session will be moderated by AMF Secretary General, Dr. Bernadia Irawati Chandradewi. Time and place is yours, Dr. Bernadia.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me?
Yes, Ibu.
Okay, great. Thank you. Very good morning once again, and very pleased to welcome everyone to this session 2, which we will be talking about vertical integration. But before I start, I just learned that Mayor from India managed to join, Mayor Patiala. So from India, so I really like to give a chance for him to say a few words. He will be speaking in Hindi. Then someone will help her for the help him from the translation. So can we invite Mayor Patiala?
Oh, sorry, he is not joined yet, I think. Let me inform you when he's
Okay.
entering the chat.
Okay, thanks. Okay, since he will be joining later, so let's move to the session 2. This is actually quite important session since we will be discussing on the horizontal and vertical integration. I think we clearly hear from many speakers that national governments have been doing some actions related to local governments, and local governments also have taken a lot of initiatives, including these actions and raise the targets ambition of climates. But I think some synergies are needed, and then we will be implementing a new program together with UNESCAP and GIZ on the vertical integration related to climate resilience. So this topic we will be discussing how can these vertical integrations, especially in the targeted countries, can be carried out. As we probably mentioned yesterday, there will be 5 countries to be involved in this vertical integrations program. 3 will be coming from ASEAN member states, and then 2 from other countries outside ASEAN. These countries are India and China. This is why for this special session of the ASEAN Mayors Forum, we have also invited local governments and mayors from India as well, and together with the Chinese representative, we also heard some of the experiences of the city of Guangzhou. So I like to welcome, we have 3 speakers here. Let me first invite Kurt. I think you know him already because he moderated the earlier session. And then second speaker, we have Melissa from GIZ. I think you are based in Manila, yeah, Melissa? Nice to meet
Yes,
you.
I'm
I
based
don't
in
know whether
Manila.
we have met earlier, but it's very nice to have you here. And then and we have one representative from Smart City. Actually, this is a program of ASEAN, which you're probably aware of. And I'm sorry, I don't get your name. I think you replace Pak Yudhistira, yeah?
Yes, correct. My name is Rika.
Oh, Mbak Rika. Okay, thank you, Mbak Rika. Okay, so we have a wonderful panelists for this session. So I'm expecting that we will have a lot of questions because this is very important discussions. How can we get the synergies? And the words of synergies, the word of cooperation, the word of enabling environment have been mentioned so many times. Even the title of this event, ASEAN Mayors Forum, is enabling environment on climate resilience, local governments and cities' commitments to tackle climate change. We have done enabling assessment, rating of 24 countries. And this depends very much on the level of decentralization, the level of fiscal transfer, the level of course, capacity of local governments, and whether there are supporting mechanisms. I think you heard from Mayor Binay just now that we have, how can we also come up with good reporting mechanisms and also make sure that we have a certain standards to follow. And then, of course, every country is unique. So let me invite Kurt first. Kurt, how you think UNESCAP can help in the vertical integration as a member states organization of the United Nations for the Asia Pacific region? I'm very sure you have some clues on this different kind of enabling environments in more than 20 countries in Asia and Pacific. But if you can focus on ASEAN, because this is also what we are targeting this time, and of course China and India as well. So Kurt, open to you.
Sure, we do have some thoughts, and you know, as we heard yesterday and some this morning, that in order to achieve the aspirations of the Paris Climate Agreement or the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, that local authorities, cities, and communities need to be much more engaged, and we need to accelerate the actions that can be implemented in those communities. So one of the things that I think we're looking at and discussing with partners is how do we assist communities, cities, urban areas across the region to plan and implement coherent, evidence-based, and inclusive actions for low carbon and resilient urban development. I don't have a presentation today because I wanted to just address and discuss some of the issues, because this is really about collective action. And identifying what are the opportunities and where are the strengths that we can build upon across various networks, institutions, and organizations working with local and national authorities. As Bernadia just said, I think one of the major issues is how to enhance the enabling environment for cities to take action, to develop inclusive policies, and to provide them with the access to finance that aligns with overall national climate policies and frameworks, but is also done in an effective and efficient way. We know that there is, depending on who you talk to, either plenty of finance out there or there are challenges in accessing the finance. And a lot of that goes to the bankability of projects.
Yeah.
And the bankability of projects is not on just whether it makes sense financially or what the bottom line is, but it is the underlying policy and the planning efforts that go into those actions. So there are some key areas that we think need to be focused on in developing vertical integration of climate policies and climate actions. The first is improving the policy and regulatory environment and the institutional frameworks for low carbon and resilient urban development. That can be done partly through influencing the regional dialogue on collaborative and vertical integration. So bringing together the national governments and the local authorities so that there aren't the different policy priorities at the national level and the local level, that they are in sync and very much aligned to achieve the same objectives. It also goes to the issues of reporting and making sure that what is done at the local level is captured in both national strategies, whether they be nationally determined contributions or progress reports against the Sustainable Development Goals. And there are a number of platforms that can help to achieve that. it doesn't always have to be a project-based initiative. You see LGSBAC, the ASEAN Mayors Forum. There's an Asia-Pacific local government coordinating body. There's the ASEAN Working Group on Climate. So all of these existing platforms can be leveraged to help build that policy coherence. The second element is really on planning. And we encourage, I think, all of the institutions that are engaged in these efforts have identified planning as essential to lay the foundation for actions. If we want to talk forward about finance, many of the financial institutions will look to see what is the long-term strategy, what are the planning efforts that are supporting the requests for finance. So planning is essential for all communities, not only to manage growth, but to also provide, the rationale and the market certainty for both public and private investment. The third area is really identifying what are the specific climate actions that a local community can take forward. Some of those can be just local, some can be in partnership with other cities, or some can be transboundary. And there are significant opportunities in the ASEAN region for transboundary collaborations. So the fourth item is finance. So the enabling factors to enhance access to international and domestic finance, again, really go back to the foundations of planning, but also overcoming some of the traditional barriers to accessing finance. Many of the communities within this region have traditionally relied on intergovernmental transfers. And the own source revenue, the locally generated revenue, is only a small percentage of their budgets. There needs to be some capacity building and institutional building to increase the credit worthiness and introduce the fiscal reforms to allow cities to identify and access different forms of finance. But that again goes to what are the local initiatives to ensure, again, that the fiscal reforms and the revenue models are in place to access that finance. And there are some existing networks that are working on finance, and specifically city climate finance that can be of assistance. But more importantly, it's also about matching the supply of finance with the demand for investments at the local level. And again, those investments at the local level can be partially self-financed, partially supported by national or provincial governments, but they all need to have that, again, that strong foundation to create the bankability. And the last component I want to mention is really about knowledge, and that's about knowledge transfer, exchange, and advocacy. Many of the communities within this subregion are already taking significant actions. We've already heard today and yesterday some of the solutions and the innovations that are being developed. But they need to be shared more broadly. There are opportunities for online platforms and knowledge hubs, but the key is not to be repetitive, but to be constructive and productive and practical. So a lot of what needs to be developed needs the input of city networks, of partnerships. So the ASEAN Mayors Forum is a perfect platform for mayors to express what kind of knowledge and in what form would be useful to them. Is it a demand-led facility for research? Or is it more peer-to-peer learning? Or is it examples of best practices? So these are the types of interventions that we've been in discussion with partners on. And I'd be happy to hear any feedback or suggestions or examples of how these interventions can work. So again, policy, planning, action, finance, and knowledge. Thanks, Bernadia. Back over to you.
Thanks. So policy, planning, knowledge transfer, and finance. Kurt, thank you so much. Actually, this is also something that I like to maybe have you some thoughts, because in one side, local governments are asking for more authorities, more mandates, like because they cannot raise certain taxes or having bonds. But another side also, there are local governments that are given authority, but they have not been using that authorities very well. For example, bonds, municipal bonds that is allowed to be, released by Indonesian cities or Indonesian local governments, but there is no even one single bonds has been released by any even big city. So this is a kind of, a bit ironic, I said, because we are asking some more authorities, but we have not been using certain authorities because not only because of the capacity, but probably kind of strong wills that we really have to push forwards, including this the importance of good governance, because then you have to have a certain level of reportedness, and you have to be pushed for transparency. But anyway, this is the situation, and there is also a situation in which there are a lot of funding available, but the other side, local governments are asking more funding, while that fundings actually can be accessed. So there are kind of situations related to finance, which I really think that we really have to show kind of evidence based. And having also good governance as an important principle, because sometimes this good governance, I mean, this could be a key of implementation. But I noted what you said, Kurt, that we should not work based on the projects or programs. I think we should, I agree with you that we should use existing platforms that are available. There is also GCOM, a Global Conference of Mayors for Climate Change and Energy, that accumulate the efforts made by cities on these mitigations as well as adaptation. So thanks a lot, Kurt. I was just, I'm sorry to go back to Mayor again, because I was just told that Mayor Patiala is here. I really hope that panelists about this session forgive me, because mayors are busy, especially in dealing with this COVID-19. And I really appreciate that even during these busy times and busy moments, mayors are still available and speak with us today. So if you don't mind, I'll go for Mayor Patiala and ask him for just a few remarks, and somebody will do translation for him, because he will be speaking in Hindi. Can I ask Mayor Patiala to speak? I only know Namaste, Namaskar. So I'm sorry, I don't speak Hindi. I hope somebody can help me getting Mayor Patiala to speak. I saw him in the car just now. Hello? Can we get somebody from ALSG to help us? Oh, he already left. Okay. Anyway, this is the beauty of having virtual meetings, because we couldn't see sometimes the face, but anyway, we will let him speak when he's back. So let's go to Melissa. Melissa from GIZ, we will be implementing a program with you, for this Urban Act program under this IKI. And this is also quite important for us because this is require, of course, cooperation of central governments and as a platform of local governments, IMF, as well as UCAG ASPAC, we need to also find a key synergy with central government, especially the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Interior. We sometimes, not the institutions that handle a climate issue in the countries. So, Melissa, could you share with us the plan for this IKI program that will be run starting from next year?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Bernardia. And right now, I'm just going to share my screen for for this presentation. So as mentioned, we have now this Urban Act project that we are working on and has been confirmed to be funded by the German Federal Ministry for the Environment for Nature Conservation. And also mentioned by Ms. Bernardia, it's going to be a multi-country project that's going to be developed under the ICI funding. And just to talk more about that, so the 5 countries that were mentioned is China, India, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. And well, the 3 ASEAN countries there are Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, with the addition of China and India. We hope to implement this starting 2022 until 2025. We are currently right now in the proposal preparation phase. So the funding has been confirmed, but right now we are due to submit the full proposal to ICI sometime in August. So during this project preparation, well, before that, Urban Act actually works with national and international implementing partners. And at the country level, we have multi-level support. And we do focus on enabling factors that are based in the countries. When we talk about enabling factors, because when we talk to our government partners about enabling factors, sometimes they really can't understand what is an enabling factor. But actually, when we try to go back, of course, to our funders, and maybe a lot of the European counterparts use this a lot, but for them, an enabling environment is really a good policy environment where you enable them to have this action. So when we talk about enabling environment, and we have to explain this to our government partners when we talk to them, that's what we're talking about. And of course, we want them to support evidence-based planning, not just, we see a lot of creative plans, but sometimes these plans don't really coincide with what is currently needed in that country. And we also want to facilitate synergies here. As you can see, we have a lot of partners for this project. And since I know that we still have some other speakers, maybe I can talk about that later on. But for now, I'm going to focus on this framework, that this is the impact that we hope to see, that communities, cities, and urban regions in the Asia-Pacific plan and implement actions for sustainable and low carbon and resilient urban development. We can see right now that this resiliency is really needed by all of us. And we hope to really enhance policy, regulatory frameworks, and really the institutional environment so that we can accelerate a lot of these urban climate action plans for everyone. And particularly in the access to finance, as you mentioned earlier, and also I think Kurt mentioned it earlier, that there's a lot of finance going around. And sometimes the money is just sitting there because a lot of the cities and even a lot of government partners have no idea how to access it. So there's really capacity needed for them to learn how to access this. And for innovative urban and climate action, this is like the triangle that we're working with. We want to have innovative urban climate action, climate sensitive urban planning. So we're looking in the Philippines, that is, I'm going to go into the case of the Philippines, particularly in the next few slides. But one of our key partners is actually the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, which was preceded by the HLURB, Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board. And we need to see the national framework conditions, which is why our main political partner is the DILG, the Department of Interior and Local Governments. Simply because, as you mentioned, or as was mentioned earlier, many times climate action really falls through the cracks in these national government agencies. And through this, even if it's just a foot in the door, we hope to make them aware and also to embody this change that we see that if we can enhance a lot of their policies and regulatory institutional environments, then we would have achieved something really for this. And as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about the Philippine component because that's the component that I'm very familiar with. All of the 5 countries are actually did their own planning for this, because although we have one outcome indicator, we cannot have like one, it's not a one size fits all for all countries. So each country really needs to see what works for them. And so for this, the first thing that we did, and I'm not really going to go into detail into this, but the first thing that we did, which was kind of difficult for us at first, was to map out all of the policies that were related to climate and urban action. So we have here our NCCAP, our LCCAP. NCCAP is the National Climate Change Adaptation Plan. And on the local level, you have your LCCAP, the Local Climate Change Action Plan. And you see there's a line between those, but sometimes the LCCAPs don't really, or the NCCAP does not feed into the LCCAP in this case. And so that's where we see the gaps are. And in order for us to come up with this framework, we realized that we, and maybe a lot of countries out there, we realized that we have so many laws in place. But really, what is needed is to build their awareness that this is out there, and also to build their capacity that, you know, these are already in place, but what's just needed is really action. And this vertical integration that we see here from the top, from the red to the blue, to the green, and to the yellow, this is the vertical integration that we're talking about. Because if in the Philippines, although the reds are in place, many times the people on the ground, they don't take into consideration this vertical integration, and that it actually feeds into a lot of these Republic Acts for the Philippines. And all of this entire framework involves a lot of government agencies whom we had to talk to. And maybe that's the good thing right now about, if there's a good thing about the COVID pandemic, because we were able to talk to them, a lot of these government institutions virtually, and we were able to have a lot of meetings with them. And one of our entry points is going to be the CLUP, or the Comprehensive Land Use Plans, in enabling this vertical integration in the Philippines, because this is handled by the DSUD, or the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development right now, in collaboration and implemented by the DILG, the Department of Interior and Local Governments. And for the guidebook for this, they did mention that it's, although it has some climate action there, there's still a gap in terms of climate action for these land use plans. So on a national level, we're planning to enter through there to be implemented on a local level through our pilot cities. And as mentioned, these are our key actors. Because of the previous framework, we realized that these are all the government institutions that we probably need to talk to. So we have talked to DILG through ASEC Frank. Why the Department of Transportation there? The OTR is there because we also plan as a thematic, as our theme for the Philippines, to be mobility or transportation, urban mobility. So we're going to include the Department of Transportation and urban mobility into the comprehensive land use plans. DSUD is there, and also the provinces and the cities. We were able to talk to most of these, especially from the key to the primary actors, and also for our intergovernmental agencies. Sorry. We were able to talk to ADB, AFD, COICA, USAID, to see what was already present in their projects for the Philippines, so that we don't really reinvent the wheel. And so particularly, we don't want to do something that has already been done, but we want to build on achievements that has already been done by all of these aid agencies as well. So we actually, they informed us of their upcoming projects, and there are already plans on the ground to collaborate on these. And this is our general logic for how we plan to do this change. So for the national level, I think someone is unmuted, but if you can hear me, that's fine. Yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, okay. So for a national, local, climate level, we plan to do the urban plans, as I mentioned, enter through the comprehensive land use plans, and just inform them that maybe there needs to be a stronger consideration for mitigation, mobility, MRV, and even financing for these guidebooks on a national level and on a local level, maybe to include this in their clues. And then we plan to have pilot cities. For the Philippines, we have 3 major island groups, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So we plan to have 3 pilot cities, 1 in each major island group, where we plan to integrate climate and urban mobility into their LCCAPs and their clues, and hopefully into their budget. And as mentioned earlier, there's really a gap in terms of access to financing. So part of the project is going to assist them in accessing domestic finance. In the Philippines, we have the People Survival Fund that they can access, which is climate action, climate finance instrument. And then on a national level as well, we hope to update the NCCAP, National Climate Change Action Plans, and the comprehensive land use plans guidelines to consider all of these, and to incorporate there the local government experience that was experienced in the pilot cities. And of course, none of this would really matter if we did not continuously communicate all of these. So that's why there's a lone dot there. We need to communicate all of these here, and maybe on a regional level, we believe that this ASEAN Mayors Forum is also a good way for us to communicate whatever is achieved in this project. And maybe just a general yes.
To conclude,
Yes, this is my last slide.
Time for discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, so for this last slide, because of this one, so this is what we plan as our outputs and outcomes. So the impact and outcome are the same for the 5 countries, but for the outputs, we have policy, planning, action, finance, and knowledge management. Basically what was mentioned by Kurt earlier. And this actually concludes my presentation. And we really need to go hand in hand for this climate action. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Indeed, we really need to work hand in hand and work together. Thank you so much. Let me give a chance now to Mayor Patiala, Mr. Sanjeev Sharma. I think you're there. Can we have somebody from Ashley Paul from India to translate or to interpret into English?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. Good morning, everybody.
Yes.
I'll be acting on behalf of AILSG, and I'll be translating whatever the Mayor of Patiala speaks.
Okay. Can we ask him to speak now, briefly, please? We can also put him on the screen, our colleagues, if his video is on. Hello, Mayor Patiala. Oh, okay. He's not here now. Ashley, could you check? Could you check, please?
Sanjeev sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes, please. Thank you.
नमस्कार, मैं अपनी तरफ से सभी साथियों को जो आज इस आज की दुनिया की जरूरत है उसके लिए हम सभी इकट्ठे हुए हैं, जो क्लाइमेट चेंज के लिए जरूरी एक्शन प्लान जो लोकल बॉडीज मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से जो करना चाहिए जहां हम विश्व भर की बात करते हैं तो दुनिया में हमारा हिंदुस्तान का जो इंडिया का जो प्रॉब्लम्स है वो डिफरेंट है। आज हमारे पास दुनिया की सिर्फ 2% लैंड है और 16% के करीब हमारी पॉपुलेशन है। हमारे ओवर पॉपुलेटेड होने से जो आज के हालात जो पर्यावरण के लिए बने हुए हैं उसमें हमें जो बहुत दिक्कत का सामना करना पड़ रहा है। अपनी तरफ से जो हमारी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट्स हैं, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स हैं, लोकल गवर्नमेंट्स हैं, बहुत एफर्ट्स करने के बाद भी, चाहे हम वो अपने लिए जो हमारे ट्रीज का प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, जो हमारे रिवर्स हैं उनको साफ करने के कार्य में लगे हुए हैं, लेकिन फिर भी हमारी ओवर पॉपुलेशन के कारण बहुत इतना नहीं कर पाई हमारी गवर्नमेंट जितना हमें करना चाहिए। आज जो हमारे जंगल हैं उनको बहुत बुरी तरह से जो खत्म किया गया, क्योंकि पॉपुलेशन बढ़ने से जो हमारे नेशनल हाईवे, हमारी स्टेट रोड्स, जो हमारी सिटी की रोड्स हैं उनको वाइडनिंग किया जा रहा है, तो काफी जो उसमें जो हमारे वृक्ष हैं उनको काटा जा रहा है। तो मैं आज जो हम जिस चीज के फिक्र कर रहे हैं, जिसके लिए हम सभी इकट्ठे हुए हैं, तो जो इंडिया है उसके लिए जब तक हमारी पॉपुलेशन और जो हमारी अर्थ का बैलेंस नहीं बन पाएगा तो हम इस क्लाइमेट चेंज से जो हमारे को दिक्कत आ रही है उसमें शायद हम इतना ज्यादा नहीं कर पाएंगे। आज हमारे जो रिवर्स हैं वो पोल्यूटेड हो रहे हैं, जो हमारी हिमालय से लेके जो कन्याकुमारी तक की जो सभी नदियां हैं उनमें जो है बहुत ज्यादा पोल्यूशन है। हम इसके लिए जो अपने बजट्स हैं उसमें प्रोविजन भी रख रहे हैं, जैसे हम पटियाला अपने कारपोरेशन की तरफ से हर साल जो है कम से कम जो 10% जो अपनी हमारी एमसी फंड्स हैं उनको जो हमारे जो यहाँ पे वृक्ष लगाने के कार्य है उसमें लगा रहे हैं। और हमें जब तक ये बैलेंस जो इंडिया का बैलेंस है ये हम नहीं ठीक कर पाएंगे तो तब तक ये जंगल कटिंग जो हो रही है यहाँ पे इसको नहीं रोक पाएंगे। इससे जो हमारे क्लाइमेट में तो चेंज आया है, उसके साथ ही जो आज कोरोना के समय में जो हमें बहुत ज्यादा नुकसान हुआ उसके लिए भी कहीं ना कहीं ये चीज जो जिम्मेवार थी। मैं अपनी तरफ से, हमारी अपनी गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से, हमारी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से, हमारे चीफ मिनिस्टर कैप्टन अमरिंदर सिंह की तरफ से बहुत ज्यादा काम इसके लिए किया गया। बहुत जो खुले एरिया थे उनमें जो वृक्ष लगाने का काम स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से उन्होंने दिया उसको हम पूरा कर पा रहे हैं। हमारी जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है उसने भी जो इस क्षेत्र में बहुत बढ़िया काम किया है। हम ये आशा करते हैं कि आने वाले समय में हम जहां गवर्नमेंट जो है फिक्रमंद है उसके साथ ही हमारे जो लोग हैं जो अपनी जिम्मेवारी निभाएंगे, क्योंकि आज जो प्लास्टिक का यूज बढ़ रहा है किसी ना किसी तरीके से जो प्लास्टिक जिसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया था कि जंगल में कटिंग ना हो, क्योंकि पहले सारा ये सामान जो लकड़ी से बनता था उसके लिए जंगल को काटना आवश्यक था। लेकिन जब हमारे प्लास्टिक के बैग्स, प्लास्टिक के जो अपना बॉटल्स, ये सारा कुछ जो कैरेज का काम जो था जो प्लास्टिक के साथ हमने शुरू किया, ये हमने शुरू तो किया था कि जंगल को बचा सके, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं जो इसका मिसयूज होना शुरू हुआ, जब इसको हमने जिम्मेवारी के तरीके से यूज नहीं किया तो ये हमारे लिए आज पर्यावरण के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा खतरा बन चुका है। चाहे वो हमारा ग्राउंड वाटर है, चाहे वो हमारे हवा की बात आती है, चाहे वो हमारे रिवर्स की बात आती है, कैनाल्स की बात है, सी की बात है, तो एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज हमारे लिए आज जो ये प्लास्टिक बन चुका है। उसमें जो हमारी लोकल गवर्नमेंट्स हैं अपनी तरफ से जितना भी काम कर रही हैं वो इतना ज्यादा बड़ा काम नहीं है। जब तक हम इस प्लास्टिक को खत्म नहीं कर लेते, इसके यूज को जो है प्रतिबंधित करना आज अनिवार्य हो गया है। मैं अपनी तरफ से और जो हमारे सभी बाकी के जो हमारे देश हमारे साथ इकट्ठे हुए हैं, तो हमें इस प्लास्टिक के यूज को बंद करना चाहिए। इसका बहुत बड़ा प्रभाव जो है आज हमें मिल रहा है। हम अपनी तरफ से जितना भी कार्य कर रहे हैं, मैं संतुष्ट हूं कि आज के इस समय में हम इससे ज्यादा बढ़िया काम नहीं कर सकते। इसमें हमारे जो देश के लोग हैं उनकी जो भागीदारी बनती है वो भी आने वाले समय में बढ़ रही है। जो हमारे कचरे को संभालने के प्रबंध चल रहे हैं वो भी अब काफी उसमें सुधार है। तो मैं अपनी तरफ से और अपनी जो हमारे मुख्यमंत्री पंजाब कैप्टन अमरिंदर सिंह की तरफ से जो ये प्रबंध हम अपने स्टेट में कर रहे हैं उसके लिए हमारी गवर्नमेंट का धन्यवाद करता हूँ। तो लोगों से भी आशा करता हूँ और अपने पूरे देश के लिए जो हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जो हमारी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कार्य किए जा रहे हैं अब आगे के लिए इसमें बहुत प्रभावी रहेंगे। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
Dhanyabad, Mayor. Thank you so much for your view about the situation. And indeed, population you mentioned is also quite challenging, overpopulation. And of course, we understand that issue. And I really hope that you will be successful in implementing whatever actions you have. And of course, action that relate to COVID-19 and certainly the climate action. So thank you, Mayor.
And misuse of plastic also.
Oh yes, misuse of plastic. Thank you so much. It's good that you come up with a good policy of reducing the use of plastic or maybe banning plastic uses in your city. Thank you, Dhanyabad. Okay, I hope you can stay here, Mayor. Unfortunately, we don't have interpretation facility for Hindi, but maybe in the future. Thank you. And thanks, Paul Ashley, for translating what Mayor said here in the chat. Thank you. Okay, let's go back again to the session. I think Melissa has clearly presented about the Urban Act, and I really think that the mapping you did was very useful. We know a lot of policies, we know a lot of laws, and sometimes, you know, can be contradicting among others. And I think this is quite important to see what the situations right now, what the policies, and whether we need to have a deregulation as well, reducing, you know, some laws that hindering people for making actions or hindering local governments, particularly for making actions. We see this can also this kind of situations in many other countries as well, because especially on the issue of adaptations, this has been handled by so many ministries, and sometimes they are not coordinating among themselves. Of course, transport ministry, and it's good that you put the Department of Transportations in part of your mapping, and also another ministries, especially this Ministry of Interior or Home Affairs, or DLIG in the Philippines. So thank you so much. I'm sure there will be questions to both of you, Kurt and Melissa. So let's go now to Jakarta case. Jakarta has been implementing smart city, and I think you all are aware that Singaporean government has initiated these smart city networks under the framework of ASEAN. So I'd like to ask Mbak Rika here to share how this smart city relates to climate resilience, because the topic is climate resilience, and how perhaps the role of Jakarta in building this smart city and having a good connection on the climate resilience. So time is yours, Marika.
Thank you for the time provided for me to share a bit of what's Jakarta's smart city role in creating a resilient city of Jakarta. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rika. I am the head of communication and marketing unit in Jakarta Smart City, which is the member of ASEAN Smart City Network. So we are a management unit under the Department of Communication, Informatics and Statistics of Jakarta Provincial Government that in charge in organizing ecosystem development for the implementation of smart cities and smart provinces in the DKI Jakarta Provincial Government area. So in today's presentation, let me share several acts that has been conducted by Jakarta government in relation to the development of smart city ecosystem to support Jakarta in becoming the climate resilient city in the future. So as we can see here, let me can you go back to the previous slides, please? Let me start with the condition of Jakarta. As the capital city of Indonesia with a population around 10.3 million people, we have several challenges derived from the big number of our populations. We have a very dense populated area, which is 15,633 people in each kilometer squares. We also produce around 7,800 tons of waste every single day. We have 13.3 million of motorcycles and 3.5 million cars that cause daily congestions in Jakarta road networks. And also not to mention other challenges related to climate change, such as floods and other challenges. Next slide, please. So those challenges also top up by the current global challenge, which is the COVID-19 pandemic that really affecting how government around the world to manage its city, including Jakarta. So this pandemic brought to us problems such as health crisis, economic, and also environment crisis. But however, it also brings the new opportunities, which are the digital life breakthrough. And since we are now limited to do mobilization, it's also result in a greener environment here in Jakarta at last. So overall, this pandemic has enhanced the value in life and livelihood itself. In Jakarta Smart City, now we shift and slightly change our future smart city visions to cover these four things: the pandemic-proof city, the resilience to crisis city, the digitally advanced city, and the most important, a sustainable and livable city for our citizens here in Jakarta. Next slide, please. To achieve those smart city visions, we develop a Smart City 4.0 framework. This framework is a basis for us in Jakarta Smart City to develop the concept, the action plans, and also the development of Jakarta Smart City ecosystem itself. As we can see here, we try to develop a smart city that not only cover the digital and technology things, because when we're talking about the smart city ecosystem, it also need to collaborate and need to support the development of its people, its governments, its economic, and the most important is its environment. As you can see here in the pictures, our smart city framework, one of our value objectives is how to develop the sustainable environment, and one of our indicators, smart city indicators, it's the smart environment itself. Next slide, please. So in developing this smart city ecosystem and also in the development in general, we also realized that the government cannot do it all alone. So that's why we put collaboration as Jakarta's main development approach. We try to collaborate with the central government and also with the other local government in Indonesia as our effort to do a vertical and horizontal integrations. We also try to collaborate with the citizens that cover the citizen community, private sectors, the NGO, the academia, and other stakeholders in Jakarta City. We also support the collaboration between the citizen or the stakeholder with the stakeholder, like the citizen with the citizen or the private company with the citizens, in order to help the city to develop or help the city to overcome its challenges. This collaboration, it's not only covers development activities, but also in how we finance the development itself. So here in Jakarta, now we are creating the creative financings where we try to collaborate with our private sectors as our partners to develop our cities and also to develop the ecosystem of smart city here in Jakarta. And this collaboration is also covers all sectors of the development, not only like information and technology, but also like education, health, the energy, how we support the SMEs, and of course the environment sectors. Next, please. That's then take us to talk specifically about what kind of acts that Jakarta has done to tackle environment challenges. As we can see here, Jakarta facing several environmental challenges such as flood, the dwindling source of clean water, the high rate of emission and pollution, and also the high number of waste and energy problems that we face here in Jakarta. Next slide, please. Here in one of our aims in Jakarta Smart City is to continuously try to translating those challenges into solutions with integrating technology and digitalizations here and there to help and support the technical units in Jakarta provincial government that responsible to manage those challenges in order to do their work with more efficiency and to achieve their target.
Rika, you have 1 minute.
Okay, next slide, please. In order to overcome flooding, like in Jakarta, we develop Pantau Banjir platform and also Jak Pantau in Jaki, our super mobile apps and website. This is one-stop information for flood management and flood emergency announcements that can be easily accessible by the citizen, so citizen can know when flood will come. It can act as an early warning system for them, and also we can also give more better information to the citizen regarding the flood. Next slide. We also have the rain bank vertical drainage program. We try to collaborate with the citizens to develop the rain bank in each of their house. So if like one household have one vertical drainage or rain bank in their house, Jakarta will have a better water absorptions, and it could also mitigate the problem of clean water scarcity in Jakarta. The next one is Jaklingko initiative. We try to collaborate with transport unit and also with private sectors that do the transport services in Jakarta. We try to integrate all the public transport modes in order to attract people to use public transport compared to their utilization of their private cars. We try to make the public transport it's more efficient and more attractive and also more seamless for them to change from one mode to another. So in the end, we hope that they will move and shift from a private car to the public transport in Jakarta. The other one is we also have one of the features in Jaki, which calls Jak Ispu. This is to overcome the air pollution challenges. We put these features so people can know like the index of the pollutions and also the data after a particular time. It can be used by the government to develop to create a database policy recommendation later on. And we also have smart light. We do an eco-friendly exchange. We install sensors and replace almost 300,000 street lights into the LEDs, which are more efficient and also more environment friendly. And the last one is related to waste and energy challenges. We promote the development of the intermediate treatment facility, which is a waste management technology to convert waste into energy. This program was developed by the Environment Department together with the regional enterprises and also with other private sectors as a solution to overcome the waste problem in Jakarta. We hope it can able to manage 2,200 tons of waste per day, and it can produce 35 megawatts of electricity per day. So I think that's all. That's several programs and acts that Jakarta has done in the term of smart city ecosystems and helping Jakarta to become one of the climate resilient city in the future. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we found useful how Jakarta managed to integrate, and use technology for betterment of the people and giving a better access or services to the people. Thank you so much. Just one question to you: is this rain bank mandatory or still, kind of encouraging only?
By now, we are still encouraging this program to be implemented by all the citizens in Jakarta. But then, we also in the government, internal of the government, we are trying to make like some regulations to make it as mandatory things to do for citizens, because it's really it's really will help Jakarta in overcoming the problems of flooding, and also for clean water.
If this could also be included in the building codes, that would be good too, yeah. So it's a mandatory for any buildings or houses when they build them. Okay,
Yes, for
thank
sure.
you so much.
Thank you.
So we have already heard 3 speakers under these sessions. So I'd like to welcome anyone for questions and answer, because we are going to have a question and answer sessions. So anybody would like to ask questions, just raise your hands, or you can just write in this chat. I think we have so many participations from other UN bodies as well. We have UN Habitat here. We also have colleagues from, of course, GIZ. We have several colleagues from GIZ. We also have from other organizations. So I really like to welcome anyone who would like to ask questions. Or maybe we have no questions so far. If no question, then I'll ask the questions. This vertical integration is very, very important. I want to ask this question to all of you speakers here. And it's a bit complicated because we have ego, sectoral ego, and sometimes this ego, you know, can be above everything. So we really need to have a really bold decision making, you know, system, so that others can basically follow. And then if we talk about climate resilience, this require also involvement of different sectoral, not only at the national government level, but also in the local governments with the coordination. And Indonesia is now having a discussions of putting these 3 index, index of environment, index of greenhouse gas emissions, and index of disaster risk reduction as index for measuring the performance of leaders, local leaders. In this case, is mayors and governors. So with your view, with these sectoral egos that not only in one country and everywhere, even in Japan as well, I still see this. So how can we come up with good solutions? Because when we heard about Urban Act program that Melissa shared with us is extremely important. But those 5 countries have different contexts. They have a different national context. Of course, they have different culture. So they have also different level of decentralization, level of mandates, and level of authority. How can we make this vertical integration successful? What could be a solutions? Maybe we can talk about concrete things, because we have also kind of limitations. Like we, as a local government associations, we can do advocacy. We can, you know, try to convince leaders, central government leaders, as well as working with different ministries, but it takes some time. It takes some time. So I'm not sure if within 5 years we can really come up with very, very concrete decisions at the national level. Because we are talking about advocacy engagement with the central government as well. So I would like to ask anybody who would like to react on this.
Maybe I can start.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we were doing our stakeholder consultations in the Philippines, one of the stakeholders that we actually talked to was the Department of Finance. And we talked to one of the vice ministers there, or assistant vice ministers. And she looked at our output and outcome indicators, and she said, "Are you sure you can do this in 4 years?"
Yes.
And actually, what I presented to you, we've already pared this down to what is actually doable in 4 years, and with a budget of 20 million euro. for the 5 countries. And then she went on to give us some very practical suggestions, because she said, if you're going to talk to the mayors, make like elections are coming up next year. So, so how are you going to make this sustainable? So you have to make sure that the mayors you talk to, and you mentioned Ms. Bernardia to talk about practical things.
Yeah.
And so this was the one of the practical things that she mentioned to us. But at the same time, because in the Philippines we have a maximum of 3 terms for the mayor,
yes.
And so if we're already talking to a 3rd termer, then you're not really sure if whatever it is that you talk to with them will be continued on, although we'd like to think so, as Mayor Binay has said earlier. On a national level, and really, as you mentioned, the sectoral ego, I think it's not only a sectoral ego, but it's also like national and local level ego that we're talking about, because sometimes, and maybe this happens in a lot of countries, a lot of local level people think that the national level people don't understand them, and vice versa. Like the national level people don't understand that the local, think that the local level people don't understand them. And this is because they're looking at it from different lenses. And so what we're going to try to do in the Philippines, and this is because this is due to start next year, is to try to look at the low-hanging fruits that we have. In this sense, for GIZ in the Philippines, we have worked heavily already with the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board, the ones that produce the guidebooks for the comprehensive land use plans. And we've also had good relationships with the Department of Transportation from previous projects. So if we work with these synergies, and when we did talk to DSUD, the Department of Human Settlements, they were very, very open. Yeah. And they said that please assist us in updating these guidebooks. And for that, we already have, and if all things go well, then we saw that low-hanging fruit already. That's actionable. They have guidebooks and they want us to update it. And so if we can do that on a national level, and we're able to pilot this on a local level, whatever it is that we add to these guidebooks, then at least we have done at least that vertical integration for us. So, and involving, of course, the Department of Transportation, just to make sure that if we're going to incorporate any mobility policies into the guidebooks, then it's totally in line with also their policies, because I am sure it has happened, and I have seen that many times the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing for a lot of government action. And so we just want to make sure for this that I think for vertical integration, it's important to communicate to all stakeholders and to the decision makers exactly what it is that we're doing and how it can make us a resilient city and eventually a resilient country.
Yes, good, thank you. It's good that you also communicated with the Ministry of Finance, because this is a key ministry who is in charge of budget allocation. If we can convince the Ministry of Finance of adding this 3% of resiliency, for resiliency projects, that shows the of long-term benefits of more than 4.2 trillion US dollar for the lifetime of the infrastructure. I think this is very important. Also, don't forget to talk with the Ministry of Construction as well.
We have.
This is good. And another thing about your say about election, local election, and use this sustainable development as the campaign, message from the mayors or candidates. I think it's also important that they use a simple language, because if they use sustainable development, maybe nobody will choose them or will elect them. I think how this sustainable development connects to jobs, employment, welfare. I think this is important words, and you also hear from mayors that the climate resilience is not the priority for now. It's the how to handle COVID. But if we can frame, or we can have a very good package of green job, green deals, this kind of thing, I think maybe community will elect the mayors or the candidates. I think this important of communication tools and also communication messages that need to be simple because SDGs are sometimes very hard to understand sustainable developments per se because you need the long term, but mayors need also short term actions, very concrete actions that go to long term vision and benefit as well. So thank you. Anything from you, Kurt, before I ask Rika because there is a question for her. Kurt, you want to add what?
Or I can add a little bit on vertical integration. I think one of the first steps would be to identify what are the mutual co-benefits to national governments and local governments. And I think if we look back at the the first preparation of nationally determined contributions after the adoption of the Paris Agreement, right, in conjunction with the adoption of the Paris Agreement, you can see that those were put together really without much consultation with subnational and local authorities. And I think there is a greater recognition in the updates of the NDCs that in order for them to both raise the ambition level, not only raise the ambition level, but realize the contributions that they had already identified, that it requires really cities to be much more actively engaged. So I think the national governments are starting to recognize that, that local communities are important to achieve national strategies. The fact that the NDCs are updated every 5 years, I think gives an inherent platform and time frame and milestones to work towards the improving vertical integration. I think it was just mentioned about low-hanging fruits. If countries are looking for low-hanging fruits in NDCs, things that are at the local level, building energy efficiency, reducing energy demand, some of the transport solutions, some of the resilient low-carbon infrastructure, are those low-hanging fruit that are achievable but are necessary at the local level. So I think it's increasing that understanding of where local actions can help on the NDCs. The other thing I would mention is that it's very analogous to on the climate side, it's very analogous to the 2030 agenda reporting. That as countries are doing voluntary national reviews, looking at their overall progress towards sustainable development, a voluntary local review by communities can actually help to make the VNRs at the national level much more robust and substantive. The other thing I would say is that if we think about a 5-year period between when countries identify what they can do and what local actions can contribute, we need to take into account that technological solutions and innovation is moving so quickly, and most of that is coming from urban areas and cities. Things like smart applications that we've heard about in examples already from mayors. Some of the new innovations in data, whether it be satellite data or machine learning or artificial intelligence, these can come into play very rapidly. And the places where they could be most easily applied are in cities. And they can help cities to actually leapfrog a little bit on their urban development issues and avoid some of the traditional challenges from urban development.
Thank you, Kurt. Anything else, Kurt?
I think that's all for me for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kurt. We have 2 questions here to Mbak Rika. I think you can read in the message here. Any projects regarding Jakarta Smart City using this PPP scheme? I think you mentioned a little bit. Also, another question related to technical aspect, how to delegate the target to reach to lower levels of the government, such as sub-districts and villages. Every unit has a KPI in Word document. Could you answer briefly, please?
Yes, so for the first questions, any projects regarding Jakarta Smart City have been done using the PPP scheme. Actually, up until now, we haven't got any projects that using a PPP scheme. But actually now we are really in the early steps of developing the PPP scheme to develop the smart city ecosystem and also smart city services to our citizens. But it's still in the early development project preparation for the PPP schemes in related to the smart city services. And for the second questions, how to delegate the target to reach the lower level of governments? Yes, every unit in Jakarta provincial government has KPI, and it's stated in the documents of yearly action plan of each unit. And usually each unit will delegate the target to the lower levels and every lower levels, because Jakarta is a provincial with 6 cities and with 6 cities in this province. So each cities will have like a delegation to reach the target, the provincial target or the KPI of the each unit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have my last question to all the speakers here. What will be your keywords or takeaway message? Just one keywords that you like to speak here, to say here before we close these sessions.
Can I go first?
Yes, go first.
My keywords will be...
That's smart to go first, because then the others cannot follow. Okay, go ahead, Marika.
My keywords will be a collaboration,
Yes,
because we can do everything if we collaborate together.
Yes.
Whether it's like central and local government or citizen and the government, even the citizen with the citizen. So my keywords will be collaborations.
Okay, good. Thank you. So Melissa and Kurt, you cannot take the word collaboration anymore because it's already taken by...
But can I build on it?
Yeah, sure. So go ahead.
Okay, then it's resiliency through collaboration.
Okay, resiliency.
I think that's the keyword.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's also
for me,
smart,
I think.
adding resiliency. Thank you. And Kurt, I gave you a last chance because I think you're the only gentleman here. So
building on collaboration and resilience through collaboration, I think ultimately it's policy coherence.
Okay.
That is a result of collaboration. So policy coherence.
But Kurt, I only asked one word. You have taken
the others had 2 or 3, and resilience through collaboration is 3. I only used 2 words.
Okay, resilience to collaboration, adding what Melissa said for policy coherence and synergies, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you everyone. Dear participants, let's give a big applause to all speakers here, Kurt, Rika, and also Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us for the sessions. I will not wrap up today's session. I mean, because I will be speaking after this for the closing. Maybe I can keep for the closings. But thank you so much, and let's keep in touch certainly. And thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
give the mic back to our MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bernadia. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. So I believe everybody here agree that these 2 sessions today are very fascinating. So, and we will move now to the next program. It will be closing remarks by AMF Secretary General, Dr. Bernadia Irawati Chandradewi. May I please ask you?
Thank you so much. Very good morning or afternoon in your time. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sawadika, dear mayors and participants. It has been a big pleasure for us being with you all yesterday and today for this ASEAN Mayors Forum special events. plus India and China. I really appreciate that we have more than participants as expected. I was told that more than 340 or 50 people registered, and we had a participation of more than 250 yesterday. And I think this is a really good kind of forum that we could discuss together how can we make this ASEAN prosperous regions. And I believe that you found this 2 days event benefited from, you got the benefit from these discussions yesterday and today that we have. I think we learned a lot from the mayors, and also we heard a lot from the mayors how a lot of actions, a lot of initiatives have been made by the cities in ASEAN regions. This Asian Mayors Forum special events also talk about the importance of enabling environment. I think we heard quite clearly how important collaboration is needed, and how can also cooperation with the different stakeholders is needed and is required for make sure that we reach our targets of climate actions. So in terms of enabling environment, we gain a lot of insight from both sides, not only from local governments, but also from central governments on the importance of having vertical and horizontal integrations on climate actions and climate policies. But we also know that we all been facing this COVID-19 pandemic, and I think the attentions of the leaders, especially local leaders, towards this building recovery with a successful vaccination programs. So how can also this climate resilience and then be put as a priority of leaders, local leaders, as well as the cities and local governments, because the important now, how can we create jobs? So I think this is also a strong key message that we can only make this climate resilient as a top priority if we connect with the co-benefits, economic benefits, and of course social benefit as well. And this is very, very clearly mentioned by many mayors. So we need to accelerate our actions, and especially on the impact of climate change, because this is real, this is happening right now. We see a lot of changes on the weather that we also feel these days. Also reshaping our strategy and delivering our messages was strongly voiced by local leaders. But the important is that how can this message be transferred to the communities, to the society? How can this challenging situations can also be understood and can also be found useful by the community. So cities and local governments, even though they cities only occupy 3% of the world, but the role of cities very important in addressing the impact of climate change. So let me conclude here by saying that cities must have a strong, adaptive, and resilient approaches, and we need to get the synergies, further collaborations through this ASEAN Mayors Forum as an important platform for cities and local governments in ASEAN member states. I think this is also be useful, and then further discussions and further dialogues among cities and local government in ASEAN member states. I think this is also quite important. So let's continue our work. And then I think we also heard from Governor of Jakarta that the race for zero emission in 2015 and zero for resiliency campaign, this is also need to have collaboration among all of cities and local governments, and basically, we cannot do alone. We cannot work alone. We need to also need further alliances, further cooperations, and then also working together with the private companies, with communities, with even academia to have more evidence-based planning and decisions. I think this is also important things that we come from. It came from this discussion. So let's reach the vision. Let's also raise our targets and ambitions for climate actions. But importantly, make sure that it brings clear benefits, concrete benefits for citizens. I recall what the Mayor Kuala Lumpur said, that we have to be visible. The actions should be visible. The actions should be concrete. Indeed, there is important of having integrated planning, but execution of the planning is also important. Thank you very much for joining our ASEAN Mayors Forum today and yesterday. Let's work together. And then I also look forward to having you again in the next ASEAN Mayors Forum that is scheduled later this year. And let's make our future journey by taking concrete steps, even small actions. Small actions can make a difference if we can make these small actions in the big scales. So together we can build a resilient ASEAN community. As I don't know, I feel like I really like the ASEAN song very much. I don't know about you, but as we sang this ASEAN anthem yesterday during the opening ceremony, we dare to dream. We all dare to dream, and we care to share. And this is the solidarity. This is the culture of ASEAN. So for it's the way of ASEAN. So thank you and stay safe and keep healthy. Terima kasih banyak Kapungka Danebat and Salamat. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Stay healthy.
Thank you. Last but not least, before we end our today's session, let's make some good memory by taking last picture. Therefore, to all participants, please turn on your camera and give your very best smile. This picture is more casual, so you may add a thumb or two thumbs, but make sure that you give your best smile. Please turn on your camera. Okay, ready? Still waiting for some participants to turn on the camera. Ready? Okay. For the first page, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One more time. Turn on your camera, please. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, big applause to everyone.
I should also thanks our MC, Maria. Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
Also everybody, all my team here, and of course our interpreters. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
speak out loud. Let the light from the east shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. Let's share our spirit to heal the world. Our consonants speak out loud. Let the light from the east shine through the clouds. ASEAN still unites as one. ASEAN still unites as one. As we raise caring, as we raise sharing, ASEAN still unites as one. As we raise caring, as we raise sharing, ASEAN still unites as one. As we raise caring, as we raise sharing, ASEAN still unites as one. Stay safe, ASEAN.
Established in 1967, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, has grown to become a global actor. ASEAN member states are committed to work together towards peace and social and economic development. ASEAN is now the 5th largest economy in the world. This progress has lifted many people out of poverty, but the region is still facing many challenges. With at least 60% of the UN Sustainable Development Goals implemented at the local level, ASEAN's work needs strong involvement of mayors, cities, and local governments. The ASEAN Mayors Forum is an important catalyst for this effort.
The importance of your work cannot be underestimated. Over half of the world's population right now lives in cities. By 2030, the urban population is expected to reach 60%, and much of this growth is expected to take place in Asia.
The ASEAN Mayors Forum is a regional network of local political leaders who strive for local-driven solutions for major challenges like climate change, natural disaster, economic slowdown, and all other issues that concern people's well-being.
Whatever ASEAN do has to complement what we're doing at the global level, and what we're doing at the national level, and for today, what we're doing at the local level.
When we are united, we can have a stronger voice. They heard us loud and clear.
Join us at the ASEAN Mayors Forum to create a people-centered and forward-looking ASEAN community.